Welcome back to Day Drinking with Wes Hagen. Hey, so I've got this running on two different Facebook pages if you haven't been here before. So I've got the Wes Hagen Facebook page. Here, I have the J. Wilkes Wine Santa Barbara Facebook page. I have mentioned that the J. Wilkes Facebook page tends to have better. Hey, John's here first. Welcome back, John. The Facebook page over at J. Wilkes Wine Santa Barbara does have higher quality as far as the quality of the feed as it's coming out of my house. Eddie, and remember guys, watching on Wes Hagen, the quality is a little bit better over there, and Christy just popped on, and Mark is here, and Tonino is here, the guy who knows how to spell restaurateur correctly, which is amazing. I've got so much interesting and wonderful stuff to share tonight, I can't wait. So if you have anything about Chardonnay or about food and wine pairing that you're interested in me including in our discussion tonight, please let me know through either side. I'm watching both sides. And JD, welcome. And Eddie, congratulations on that sale the other day. I don't know how you're out there selling wine, but it's a beautiful thing. Yes, whatever happy day it is. It's a day for science. It's a day for science. Nice thing about the J. Wilkes feed too is it actually turns around the stuff that I'm wearing, so it doesn't give you stuff that's absolutely backwards. Paul's here, excellent, and some folks are just coming on. As if you guys haven't been here before, welcome to Day Drinking with Wes Hagen. And what we're going to do is this is sort of the introductory, making sure the cameras are working, make sure people are showing up, that Eric Osley's in the house. What up, Chef Oz? That we are talking, discussing, and that you guys have the opportunity to come on a little bit early and get in line if you would like to ask some questions or help dictate and direct the comments and really what's going on with the show. So my wife and I figured out, so this is day 28 for us. So, I guess the 28 days is over. So we decided to sip. How did I miss the fact that shelter in place is sip? I misnamed this show Day Drinking, although I love the idea of day drinking. Like, let's not worry so much. Let's just have a little fun and get through this. We could have called it, sipping while sip, or, and sustainability in practice is also sip. So there's like our sustainability and organic program. There's sipping. There's the sheltering in place. There's, of course, the quarantine, which can only be used in Corinth, France. Otherwise, it has to be sparkling isolation. So all of these things are going to be really important. And we are, this week, running through most of the J. Wilkes wines. I am the winemaker for J. Wilkes, as well as the brand ambassador for Ballard Lane, Barrel Burner, and Smashberry. So my main focus this week is to try to turn you guys onto the J. Wilkes wines, get you to taste and order a few of the J. Wilkes wines, and when you discover just how delicious and wonderful they are, you will consider joining the wine club, which will guarantee the wines arrive at the best price every once in a while. It's not much of a commitment. Nothing in the J. Wilkes portfolio is really over $30, so you get a really, really good deal. Actually, we make a bourbon barrel cab that's a little bit more than that, but that's generally only at the tasting room. So what is J. Wilkes doing these days? So we're currently, when I came in as a winemaker, we made Pinot Blanc, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and that was 2015. Then also in 2015, we added a Santa Rita Hills Pinot Noir, which we still have some older vintages in barrel that eventually we will bottle when they are ready. And then I want to say we added a Cab, and then we added a Zinfandel in 2016, Cab 15, Zin 16, and then in 17, we also added a Lagrine. And then I believe 18 is the Bourbon Barrel Cab, and we also did a Kent's Red, which is a blend of 90% Barbera, 10% Lagrine, which is a wonderfully juicy, everyday drinking, amazing, wonderful wine. Zinman's in the house. Jolie's here, so we can start. And Phil, welcome, welcome. And Linda and Leslie. Oh, hey, Leslie. So again, I'll say this until 5 o'clock and probably a couple times afterwards. And Steve, welcome, Steve. If you are watching on the Wes Hagen Facebook page, you may want to, you'll get the same programming basically as the J. Wilkes Wine Santa Barbara Facebook page. But everyone always tells me, yesterday, for some reason, my phone recorded the entire thing properly vertical, but sideways. So it looked like I was hanging off the earth the entire time. How some people watch that for an hour, I don't know. Congratulations, you're amazing. Steve, I'm very, very glad to have you here. And JG, welcome, welcome. All right, when was my first vintage at J. Wilkes, Christy asks. The answer to that question is 2015. 2014 was my last vintage at Clo Pepe Vineyards in the Santa Rita Hills, where I was both vineyard manager and winemaker with my wife, Chanda. And then in 2014, we just decided to strike out on our own, kind of get a blank slate, kind of be adults and get into the world and get our own job outside the family business. And that's exactly what we did. So I've been full-time winemaker since 2015, and I've been blending the wine since the 2014 vintage. So if it has a 2015 or later vintage, you know that it's pretty much my fault. But also it's very, very important for you to understand that the way we work as a wine company is that I am highly reliant on an incredibly talented group of winemakers for the wines that we'll be tasting on this program. Would have consisted of Richard Shelton, who left in 2018, Clay Brock, who left in 2020, as well as Thomas Fertel, who's still with our company. Amazing winemakers and guys that I could not do the J. Wilkes things without them. People always ask, wait, how in the world are you in the market so much? It's because I have winemakers as talented or more talented than I am in the cellar taking care of these wines. Brandon, Brandon, I was just watching some of our first Lip TV shows. And it was called The Wine Down. You can still Google this. It was professionally produced, like a professional television show. And it was a professional television show. And Sonia Majewski's in it, and Brandon helps host, and they even brought me in to help host, and that's probably why the whole show fell apart. But Brandon is a legend in LA liquor, let's just say on-premise stuff. And Ian is in the house. And Ian, welcome. As I said yesterday, Ian is our fresh fruit salesman at the Miller Family Wine Company. So if you need 12 tons of Bien Nacido Pinot Noir, you want to get on the list. To get on the list, you talk to Ian. And Jim, I hope everything's well with you. Awesome. Looks like we're getting down. All right. So yes. And then so J. Wilkes, the way it works is we're owned by the Miller family, and the Miller Family Wine Company has two umbrella companies that make wine. One is Rancho Tepisque, and one is the Miller Family Wine Company. I represent the Miller Family Wine Company, which represents 3 wines I don't make and 1 wine I do. Barrel Burner, Smashberry, and Ballard Lane, and those are made by the winemakers I described before. And then my name is attached as winemaker for the J. Wilkes wines. Now, we also have Rancho Tepisque, which is basically supported and promoted by Will Costello, Master Sommelier, and a Magic the Gathering player that neither of us had played for 10 years, and we both picked up the game again, and now we're playing over the internet because I guess we're geeks. I guess you have to be a geek to be a Master Sommelier. It would be very difficult to get through that without being a geek. Michelle, welcome. So glad to have you on board. And Michelle Shin is back as well. She's been asking some really good questions, and I've gotten a couple of really good stuff offline, and I have been reading your emails offline as well. And I do take every suggestion for the show, as long as it's not somehow immoral or stupid, and none of you people are, as far as I know. Well, a few of you probably are. I'd be happy to do that. Anything you want to learn about wine, anything you want to learn about beer, anything you want to learn about spirits. And it is 4:59, and I'm going to open the wine very close to 5. But did you know today is National Beer Day? You cannot get through the day without drinking a beer if you are so inclined to enjoy an adult beverage. So I am going to open a delicious local beer, and this one is the Firestone Walker Union Jack IPA. I have finally come around on IPAs. I used to avoid them. I was going to say like the plague, but I guess I'll just say like COVID-19. Now I find I finally understand the flavor of bitterness and hops in a beer, and it roughly approximates acid in wine and really does give the beer structure and a form. And although I tend to like hazies better, I have to really watch my blood sugar and my carb intake. And the way that they haze most beers now, there was a way to do it without lactose. That's very, very intensely, you need a lot of brewers, a lot of time to do it. and it's beyond my pay grade. Tim Vandergrift explained how a beer is hazed to me back before hazies just went through the roof, and now most of them are hazed with lactose. And unfortunately, lactose is basically milk sugar, and it spikes my blood sugar. So unless I want to inject myself with insulin just to have a beer, I tend just to drink clear beers. I'm focusing really now on IPAs, but really my passion is lager, pils, Kolsch, really those more traditionally styled beers that are some of the hardest beers to make. Now, if you want to make a milkshake IPA and throw in, you want to make it taste like gummies, that doesn't take much skill. That's like making an overripe wine. You just let it get, 30 bricks and you make a big jammy wine. But beer, I think, if you look at the craft necessary to produce a delicious lager or a delicious pilsner or a delicious Kolsch, now that's stuff that's just beyond me and truly amazing. Eyeing your Oktoberfest Martin, I like it. The Marzen, yes, it is March, so Marzen would be perfectly appropriate. And I did notice a couple new people coming down. Looks like we got Sean and Bill. I think I said hello to Michelle, but there's Ed Pollard as well. And I will mention now we're about to launch into the actual Day Drinking with Wes Hagen official start of the program. And I will mention one last time that if you're watching on this camera, that camera, you are on Wes Hagen Facebook. You can go over to the J. Wilkes Wines SB Facebook page, and it comes directly from the computer, and it inverts the image so it looks right. And you can go over there and like that page and make my boss happy and justify my job for one more time. What up? Elvis Bergari. Elvis is in the house. Now that Elvis is here, we can begin. So welcome to Day Drinking. Let's all take a nice big drink and realize that we are through, hopefully, the lion's share of being inside. And my wife and I, for the first day and time in 9 days, left the house today to do a little medical shopping. Chanda needed to go and pick up a couple of prescriptions. So we went up to Pismo Beach and didn't really see anything crazy except someone almost get hit by a car. But as far as people seem to be keeping away from each other pretty well, it seems you can tell people who are cohabitating and sort of sipping together. I like to sip. Sip. That was a big sip. I don't know. Can we, let's see, shelter in place. What would GULP stand for? Gulp. You can work on a really good abbreviation, or what is it? Not anagram. Is it anagram? Anagram, gulp. What gulp would be if we wanted to say, because sip is too little. If I'm sheltering in place, sipping is probably going to take too long. And Susan, welcome. That's awesome. So tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about Chardonnay again. We're going to be jumping into the J. Wilkes Chardonnay, and we are going to open this bad boy, give it a shot, talk a little bit about how and why this little bottle of wine is actually garnered more probably, what should I say, critical success than any wine I've ever made. Now, it didn't get the highest score of wine I've ever made. I think I made a 93 or a 94 point wine at Clopepi. This one got 92 points in the tasting panel, 91 points in the wine enthusiast, 90 points in the wine spectator. But the most impressive thing about this wine, without advertising in the wine spectator, they gave this wine a top 100 of 2019. So top 100 values in the entire world of wine. And we're talking about 1 million wines on average are bottled individually every year. As I said just a couple times ago, I think you have to taste a wine every 17 seconds, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year to try to get through and taste every wine that's produced in the world. So you really, really do have to pay attention to how many wines there are in the world. And when we get an accolade, it's my first top 100. And it's an accolade as much to the crew who works at Central Coast Wine Services and the Miller Family Wine Company as it is to me. This wine is almost, I would say it's predominantly from our estate vineyards in the Santa Maria Valley. So I want to talk about Santa Maria Valley today, and I want to talk about what makes Santa Maria Valley maybe the best place in the United States for the production of Chardonnay, and why Chardonnay deserves a little more attention and a little more love. But before that happens, happy National Beer Day. Gulp. I just realized I don't have a glass. Talk amongst yourselves. And I will take a moment to talk about glassware, because I just broke one of these. So this is my last one. Nice thing about being in the wine business is you're never short of wine. You're never short of wine openers. You're never short of swag, t-shirts. You're never, and generally you're never without lots of glasses. Normally they're all covered in logos, because we go to so many wine things that normally what I'll do is I'll put some glasses in my wine bag when I roll the thing out, because it's empty anyways, and everyone leaves their wine glass. So, I'm taking the Riedel stems and everything. This is the Riedel Venom Sauvignon Blanc. And one thing I love about it is the bowl's edge. I tend to put, an ounce to an ounce and a half in the wine. And this edge really gets that wine cruising really nicely around the top of this. The way that it swirls really beats the wine up. And of course, as we're swirling, we're exciting the wine on a molecular basis to encourage it to go into a vapor phase as it comes off the surface tension of the glass, to fill the bowl with all of the esters and aromas that are coming off the volatility of the wine, making it volatile. And then getting our nose nice and deep inside the glass. And I use this you'll notice when I taste Pinot Noir, I generally use a Riedel Pinot Noir glass, because I do really like how large it is and how easy it is to swirl. But you'll notice on most wines that I use for the show, I'm going to probably be using the Riedel Sauvignon Blanc glass. Eddie sells these things. So if you need Riedel stems, look up and send Eddie Gray, who's watching on the Wes Hagen page. He can get you an incredible deal. I don't know if you need a business license to buy through Eddie. If so, talk to me. I'll buy them, keep a couple glasses, and send them to you. No worries. We're all in this together. Takes a frickin' village, right? Takes a village and takes some science. Now I'm going to try one last time to cut the very top. I got it that time. Just the top of the cap. And, oh, Dominic, welcome back. And we're starting our little club, our little culture here. I like that. And I'm sure some of you I don't know very well personally, but your names are going to just resonate in my mind forever after you keeping me sane and alive and happy during this time. So when I meet you in person, or we get to see each other again in the flesh, boy, I'm going to just be so happy to see you guys. I'm going to know more about you. The problem is if you ask a question like, this is what I find about social media. Like, you see your friends from high school and stuff, and it used to be like, oh, dude, what have you been doing for the last 5 years? Like, now it's like, oh, dude, I saw that you had like a weird wart on your toe when you took that picture of yourself lying down in Hawaii. It's like, gosh, everyone knows so much about us now. All right. Nice thing also about all J. Wilkes wines, they are all finished, not with a corkscrew, not with a natural cork, but with a diem cork. Now, if you actually look real closely, you can see that is natural cork. So when they make natural cork, you probably know that cork grows out from the cork tree about 1/4 of an inch per year. So after about 10 years, they lop off this big chunk of bark, and then they punch the corks out this way. And then you have this basically peppered Swiss cheese looking chunk of cork, where maybe 60 to 70% of the cork has been used. The rest of it used to be discarded now, or ground up and used into very, very cheap corks. The problem is when you grind it up, the chance for that cork to pick up TCA or cork taint that ruins the bottle. And Stephen, good to see you. And I'm going to move down here. Oh, hey, Peter. John Zinman. We got Michelle, Christy, Nancy and Wally Rich are in the house. I saw that you left me a message, Wally. I'm apologizing right now. I'll get back to you soon. Thank you so much, so much. And Michelle, thank you for the compliment about the shirt. It's my favorite shirt to wear. It's one of my favorites. Wine is science. That's right. Wine's liquid humanism. Let's just get straight to it. All right. Now, wait a minute. Science doesn't ruin. No, science doesn't ruin anything. Well, it ruins things that aren't true. Wipe every written word off the face of the earth. That which comes back 100% the same, that's science. You know, you can think about science as it doesn't matter what you believe, because in the end, if all science was wiped off the face of the earth 100 years from now, if we regained it through another enlightenment, we would be producing the exact same data. And that's the difference between science and other things. Awesome. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Yes, Peter, you and Will hanging out. Master Psalms, Master Psalms, there's only 267 in the world. It means for every Master Psalm, 100 people have been in space. I always get the question too, hey, Wes, you talk about how women's palates are physiologically different, and that's true. Evolutionarily, men are better at killing, protecting, hunting, beating the crap out of things. Women are better at nurturing, obviously, fertility, fecundity, obviously gathering, fermenting, because all fermentation was women's work into the 12th century. As a result, women evolutionarily have a much higher sense of smell, a better sense of smell than men. I like to say women smell better, both literally and figuratively, and it all comes back down to the evolution. And the evolution is that women's noses were much more important to the survival and the adaptation of the tribe to potential toxic substances in their environment. So if you are in a tribe, if a neighboring tribe comes in and tries to steal the women, it's the men's job to grab a club and go get busy, right? A woman's job would be to smell the meat that a man would bring into the cave, flop down on the floor. Women would smell it and determine whether that was safe to eat. So having a Y chromosome, sorry guys. Hey, Mark, hey, Cheryl. Yeah, I'm drinking beer. So you can drink beer too and stop stealing your wife's wine. Come on, Mark, you're better than that. Straight out of Sierra Madre, what can you say? We're getting a little off the subject from Chardonnay, but that's how we play it here. We're all about off the cuff, And so where was I? I guess we were talking about someone help. my buddy completely got me off. Yeah, John has a question until we get there. Yes, science is truth. Yes, science beats the hell out of ignorance, and we can all only hope. I always put my faith in science, except it's not really faith because it doesn't have to be. Can you explain the difference? John, you asked this question before, and I apologize I didn't get back to you. And Bill and John, it's good to see you over here. Explain the difference between Santa Rita Hills and Santa Maria Chardonnay. So this is a perfect opportunity. So let me kind of bust out on Santa Rita Hills, and then we'll taste the Santa Maria Valley Chardonnay and see what it has to say about the typicity and the potential quality for what can be produced in Santa Maria Valley. First, I should say, Eric, welcome. I want to tell you guys that I am unapologetically a huge fan of Santa Barbara County Chardonnay. In fact, some of you heard me say this, and there's only a few winemakers in Santa Barbara that I think would agree with me. But if we were going to destroy every grapevine and never be able to grow those varieties again in Santa Barbara and only save one grapevine, I think most Santa Barbara winemakers would say Pinot Noir. It sells better. Well, it sells really well. It's sexy. It's, everyone thinks Pinot is like, it's the queen of wine. Chardonnay, it's just a commodity. It's white wine, anything but Chardonnay. It just became a big marshmallow and boring. Well, then you don't know Santa Rita Hills and Santa Maria Valley Chardonnay. Santa Rita Hills Chardonnay, to this day, and Clos Pepe being my foundation and my anchor, I will put Santa Rita Hills Chardonnay up against my second favorite Chardonnay region in California. I'm going to put Santa Rita Hills #1 for Chardonnay in California, which is a little bit controversial, especially because I used to grow grapes there and I wrote the AVA petition. #2, Sonoma Coast. And really, I think Sonoma Coast maybe should be #1 because they have an extra generation or two on Santa Rita Hills. They have older vines. They have multi-generational winemakers. They have multi-generational viticulturists and vineyardists. And, I would assume in the Sonoma Coast, the people who work the vineyards are probably more knowledgeable about vineyards and viticulture than they are down here. And I'm talking about these wonderful, brave, incredible, mostly Hispanic and Mexican folks out there in the vineyards farming wine for us, for 2 years from now. So very important. Santa Rita Hills, though, has a level of acidity, minerality, and quality that in a nascent area, in a new area that is just starting to pop, it's only been there, we've only been growing grapes there since 1972, and most of the grapes came in the 90s, including Clos Pepe. Here we go. We are in the first generation figuring out what we're doing and making some of the most profound Chardonnay in the world. Now, The greatest Chardonnay in the world will probably always be grown in Burgundy and in the Côte de Beaune. And the worst Chardonnay in the world will probably always be grown in Burgundy, maybe in the Côte de Beaune. Fortunately, not a lot of terrible, awful, no good, oxidized or pre-moxed white Burgundy is released anymore. The quality has increased incredibly over the last 50 years, in the last 10 years specifically, when there was a huge problem with white Burgundy pre-oxidizing, or pre-mox is what they called it. But I think that, I'll talk to Will about that, but I think this consensus is they figured out what was going on, and they're probably just adding a little more sulfur dioxide to their Chardonnays now. Santa Rita Hills, sandy soil, huge winds, very intense and torturous conditions to keep the vine small, the cluster small, the berries small, and the skins thick. So decreasing the amount of juice in each berry, as the skin thickness increases, the juice inside that berry decreases exponentially. So just the smallest increase of the thickness of a skin of a wine grape is going to do amazing things for the quality of that wine. It's going to reduce the juice to skin ratio. We want more skin, less juice. Now, if you want more wine, you want more juice. But if you want higher quality, you want more skin. Because the skin, when you press Chardonnay, the minerality, the intensity, a lot of the phenolic character, and a lot of what we would say the wine character is going to be coming out of the skins. So it's not only just in red wines that sit on the skins and absorb all those flavors, but even with white grapes, you really do want smaller grapes and smaller amounts of juice and thicker skin. So when you press them, you do get more expressiveness. You get more of what, and when the berry gets smaller and the skin gets thicker, the question is, what is it that makes the Santa Rita Hills Chardonnay so special? To me, it's verve, liveliness, acidity, age-worthiness, and then that beautiful, beautiful sort of apple pear fruit on the edge of tropical. And then as the wine ages, also does amazing in stainless steel. I believe I was the first winemaker to make stainless steel Chardonnay in Santa Barbara County in the 2000 vintage. If anyone made Chardonnay in stainless steel before 2000, I'd love to know so I can stop saying that. But I did make stainless steel Chardonnay for 15 vintages at Clos Pepe and loved it. Loved the minerality, loved the cut, loved the verve, just loved everything about it. Mineral. Now, Santa Rita Hills versus Santa Maria Valley. Let's go. Proof is in the pudding, right? That's a fairly heavy pour, but hey, it looks like it's going to rain outside, so let's get to some day drinking before day is gone. Smells to me like browned butter and figs. Definitely some apple, some pear. There's a certain bright, happy sourness to Chardonnay. And what I've noticed is I've gone through and I've rewatched a lot of my videos, because I guess that just pegs me as a narcissist or a perfectionist or both. I've noticed that I've used a lot of the same descriptors in a lot of the wines. So I'm trying to kind of get out of my own comfort zone and try to describe wines in language. I mean, I do have, and welcome Mary and Peter, and welcome Wavelin. Wonderful to have you. It's funny because there's almost minimal new oak in here, maybe 15, the most 17% new French oak. Santa Maria, I would say Santa Maria Valley Chardonnay might be a little more delicate, and you have to be, I think you can put more new oak on a Santa Rita Hills wine than a Santa Maria Valley wine, which goes back to 1996. Brian Babcock took me into his office and we're talking about oak when I was repairing and working on all of his barrels. I was his barrel guy for a couple of weeks, and I said, so what's the deal? Sometimes we use old oak, sometimes we use new oak. How do you decide how much new oak to use? And he said something I'll never forget, and something I vehemently disagreed with for the first 10 years of my winemaking career. And then, like most things, looking back at your parents and what they told you as a kid, you go back and go, yeah, you were right. And I have definitely told him that. He's still my guru, and went to the same college as most of my family, Occidental College. Brian Babcock said, you can't over oak a wine, but you can under wine the oak. Okay, so the more intensity, the more concentration, the more extract, the bigger the wine, the more oak you can give it and still expect balance. And so the question is, how do you decide? You have to order your barrels sometimes 6 to 9 months in advance of harvest. It's not like you're going to know what kind of a harvest it's going to be. You might have an indication. I mean, if you had early frost and you know you're down to 1/3 of a ton per acre, the intensity is going to be off the charts, maybe, but your yield is going to be really, really low. But you have to kind of make a decision on your oak way in advance. So it's all about knowing your vineyard sources, knowing your vineyard manager, knowing your expectations. If you're making wine from a vineyard that produces lightly colored, like I used to make Pinot Noir from a guy's backyard vineyard down in Montecito, Santa Barbara, hardly had any color at all, looked like rosé. You couldn't put any oak on that wine. It would completely and totally overwhelm it. It'd be like, putting sriracha on white truffles. Probably a bad idea. And Eric and Savarese, welcome. And Albert, excuse me. So you have that idea that you have to understand where your fruit comes from and what to do. Now, I've been working with this fruit and I've been drinking this fruit longer than I've known Clos Pepe. You might know in the J. Wilkes world, we don't talk about vineyards. It's all blended within an AVA. But you also should realize as a company, we don't really buy all that much fruit. So if we're not buying fruit from Santa Maria, what vineyards does the Miller family own in Santa Maria? Bien Nacido, Solomon Hills. Now, those wines are going to make generally the lion's share of these blends. Although we don't put them on the label to protect the price point of those vineyards. Obviously, normally Chardonnay from Bien Nacido would be up in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Pinot in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even more. But it is the most vineyard designated property, Bien Nacido, on the planet Earth. Clearly, Bien Nacido, Solomon Hills likes to be kind of racy. I don't like a lot of oak on my Solomon Hills Chardonnay, but certainly the Bien Nacido can soak up, I'd say, 50% new French oak without losing its sense of place. So I would say if it can handle 50%, isn't 25% perfect? Half of what it takes to the point where I think we're losing a little bit of a sense of place. On the bottle in J. Wilkes, and you're going to have to read this backwards, it does say wines of character, wines of place. That does not include a French forest 6,000 miles away. So I do try to minimize and limit the amount of new oak that we're using on these wines. So they do really, and Steve, hello, and Dan, hello, that we really do expect these wines to show the sense of the vineyards that they come from. So Santa Maria Valley, to me, the Chardonnays, as opposed to Santa Rita Hills, are not going to have the same level of minerality and acidity. Now, we are growing mostly Clone 4 and Clone 5 Chardonnay up in the Santa Maria Valley. Down in Santa Rita Hills, there's little to no Clone 4 and Clone 5. It throws too much crop and tends to struggle to get ripe. At Clos Pepe, we ripped out all of our Clone 4 Chardonnay because it was just not going over 22 bricks. Just couldn't do it. And that's perfect. That's where you want a vineyard, on the edge of where you can achieve ripeness. The one sentence you could say at least 20 years ago about every fine wine in the world today, every great wine in the world is grown on the edge of ripeness, where ripeness is not a fait accompli, that it doesn't get completely overblown with heat every year. It's always the edge of ripeness that produces, to me, the most interesting wines. It's a lot of talk about Chardonnay without tasting it. I'm just really digging that fig and brown butter thing with all that wonderful fruit and that hint of tropicality. First thing that really hits me is a crisp, bright attack that has a lot of liveliness, a lot of verve, and a lot of cut. Cut is the term I use for the level of acidity necessary for removing fat from my tongue. So if I was sitting here, pulling apart a Dungeness crab and dipping it in garlic butter, first of all, yum. Second of all, I might taste the garlic in the butter after the first bite. But after the first bite, I'm not tasting what I'm eating. My tongue is covered in papillae, and those papillae have flavor receptors. And those papillae and flavor receptors, once you put fat in your mouth, are, Sean, what's up, dude? The flavor receptors are completely coated and gummed up with all the fat in my mouth. And I don't care if you're a vegan. You can do that with olive oil. You can do that with avocado. You can gum up your ability to taste. The coolest thing about wine is that it contains all the things necessary for removing fat from our tongue so we can taste food again like we're tasting it for the first time. So we've got alcohol, acid, and tannin mostly in red wine. There is a little bit of tannin in white wine from the oak, which is true. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a bite of food. Fried chicken is a great example. Go to the Wayfare Tavern in San Francisco, get some popovers, get your fried chicken that's been sous vide for like 18 hours in buttermilk, and then they hand bread it and deep fry it. Take a bite of that fried chicken, probably the best fried chicken I've ever had. And then if you don't, a little Vouvray or a little Sauvignon Blanc, a little bit of J. Wilkes Chardonnay, that's going to suck that fat right off your tongue, cleanse your tongue, open your papillae, open your flavor receptors. So when you go back to the food, it's like tasting it for the first time. So this is getting a little bit into the food and wine pairing, but there really is two reasons we match food with wine. The main reason we talk about is that wine makes food taste better and food tastes wine makes wine taste better. So it's all delicious and it all works together. It's gestalt. The other thing that people don't really talk about, that I try to talk about a lot in my food and wine pairing classes at Allen Hancock College, is the most important thing is that wine is a wet nap for your tongue and your palate to remove fat from your tongue. So when we go back to food, it's like tasting it for the first time. So it really does an amazing job of giving us a clean slate every time we take food into our mouth, which is absolutely and totally lovely. So I would say, so this one's about 3.16 pH and about 7.5 grams of titratable acidity. I mentioned before, but I want to teach you guys again, the difference between pH and TA. pH basically stands for hydrogen ion activity within solution, and TA means titratable acidity. So pH is how fast the hydrogen ions are moving around in your glass of wine. The faster they go, the more of an acidic flavor you can expect. pH is a lot about mouthfeel. 3.0 is like champagne. Hello, acid. It's, more acid than a dead show parking lot. And 4.0 is like a soft Napa cab that had to be structured by tannin because there's like really not a lot of acid there. So 3.0 to 4.0 is the level of pH within wine. 3.0 being ouch, 4.0 being soft. Now, TA runs from about 4 to about 10. 10 grams per liter is the highest level of acidity you'll ever see in wine. That would be in a sparkling wine, a champagne. Very few still wines would ever have that level of acidity. Maybe a young Clos Saint Hune Riesling from Trimbach in Alsace, or that level of acidity better like strip the cheek lining off a white Zin drinker in 10 seconds or less. So pH is a measure of hydrogen ion activity from a level from 1 to 7, basically. 1 being you put a 1 pH drop, it'll go right through your hand and go, basically through your skin, your bone, your veins, and drop through the other side like hydrochloric acid. 7 being water, and 9 being egg whites. So 1 to 9 is sort of the scale there. TA is the weight of the acid in solution. pH is how fast the hydrogen ions are moving around in solution. Both are important to the quality of wine. In Chardonnay, I do like about 3.25 at about 7 to 7.5 grams of acid. So this Chardonnay is how lucky I am that I get to make wine for all of you fine folk. But also, really, really importantly, I try to make wines that I want to drink. Because if I don't like to drink them, because I'm going to be drinking these wines every day of my life when I'm out in the market selling them. So A, it makes my life easier. B, I can bring them into the market with a level of passion, with a level of interest, and a level of interest that I couldn't fake. I'm a very passionate person, but I find it impossible to be passionate about something artificially. So this wine, again, probably gained the most accolades of any wine I've ever made. 390 plus scores and a top 100 from the Wine Enthusiast or Wine Spectator. And we didn't even advertise with them, which was pretty surprising. Most of the top 100 will always be people who advertise with them. Not to say that's what you have to do, but if you own the Wine Spectator, I think you would understand that there's some pressure that if you're paying them thousands of dollars every month, they will probably have a more fortuitous view of your wines when you submit them. Steve Hamilton. I did run into you at a Dead Show gathering, didn't we? Steve, good to hear from you. It's like I've had everyone come into these things, from friends from junior high, friends from high school, friends from college, students that I've had at Eisenhower High School, students I had at Vermilion Community College in Ely, Minnesota, students I've had at Allen Hancock College. So it is nice to have this ability to come together and really understand each other. So excited. Steve, 9th grade English teacher. Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. Teaching 9th grade. You got through, Steve, I think we read sort of like Lord of the Flies. It's sort of, I don't know, probably has something to say with what we're going through right now. One of my favorite novels to, if you haven't read Golding's Lord of the Flies in the last 20 years, it might be something you want to read in seclusion, because the quality of the language in that novel is absolutely extraordinary. Another novel that follows the same extraordinary language right now would be Nathaniel Hawthorne's Scarlet Letter, another one of my books that are completely wasted on 9th graders. So sorry, Steve, I didn't mean to make you read books that you hated in 9th grade, but you would love now. So it's good to see you. What else about J. Wilkes Chardonnay? Well, I will refresh my glass because it makes me a better presenter. And I will tell you that I believe if you order 6 bottles of J. Wilkes with the promo code DD50, Day Drinking 50, will get you 1 cent shipping on a case. So you have to buy a case to get the 1 cent shipping. But this wine, which is normally $22 a bottle, I think goes down to $16.75, something like that. I think it's a full 30% discount off of at full retail price, $22. It was recognized as one of the top 100 values in the world of wine. So I think you'll recognize getting a 30% off now, I'm not supposed to have this wine to sell to you. We sold this wine out, and then we didn't. How does that work? It works in the current economic climate. You might or might not know there are states that have state-controlled alcohol, because the 21st Amendment, which fixed the Volstead Act, otherwise known as the 19th Amendment. Yeah, Volstead. Appreciate that. Senator from Minnesota. Love Minnesota. The only thing I hate about Minnesota would be the weather if I had no clothes, and Senator Volstead, who gave us prohibition. So the 21st Amendment, which repealed prohibition, gave total control over alcohol to the states. So every state in the United States has a completely different system for how wine is bought and sold. And the PLCB, the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board, one of the most sort of controversial alcohol companies in the world, bought all of this wine. They bought 3,500 cases of it. We made I can't remember, I want to say 7,500 cases. We sold a bunch of it. And then they came in after the Wine Spectator thing, and they're like, we'll take it all. We'll take 3,500 cases. Bring it, right? So unfortunately, there wasn't really a contract. There was sort of a purchase order. So we were putting the purchase order together right as COVID hit. And then what they said is, we'd like to put that order on hold, but not cancel it. And we're like, hey, whatever's left, we'd be happy to sell you, but we're going to sell this. So you are stealing this wine when you order it from all those wonderful people in Pennsylvania. If you say you're not a fan of the Philadelphia Eagles, would it be worth buying a case of this wine just to make sure that the Eagles fans can't drink it? Well, that really doesn't matter, because most Eagles fans are outside of Philly, because who wants to live in Philly? Oh, did I say that out loud? Nah, I love the food in Philly. I love Pennsylvania. I love the fact that the statue of William Penn looks like he's taking a leak on Jersey. Now I've pissed off Jersey and Pennsylvania. At least I've balanced it, because if you talk smack about Jersey, you make Pennsylvania happy. You talk smack about Pennsylvania, you make Jersey happy. So I did have a girlfriend in Philly for a while and got to visit there and had a wonderful time walking around in August. Like, am I underwater? Why is it so hot? Why is it so? It was my first experience with East Coast humidity. Let's talk about food and wine pairing. Allison, perfect timing. We're just getting into food and wine pairing. I'm going to do a quick little search to make sure I haven't missed any questions. David Vergari, DM closures are the bee's knees. Have you ever encountered cork taint with one? No, I have not. I started using them in 2005 with the Clos Pepe wines. So I have bottled 15 vintages under DM cork and have not had one bottle show one iota, I don't even know what an iota is, of bottle variation and or cork taint. I used to open a case of wine under natural cork. $1 corks, the most expensive corks you could buy, grade 1A floor corks. And you would open 12 of them and 2 or 3 bottles would smell like they're not the same wine. There was always this sort of bottle variation. And I always thought bottle variation was just because wine is alive, right? No. What I found is when I moved to DM is every single bottle I've ever opened after DM has been 100% uniform. And uniformity, especially in the current wine climate where everyone wants their wine to taste the same as the last bottle, and everyone knows that if they get a crappy bottle, they might not know it's the cork and just think I'm a bad winemaker and never buy my wine again. I am incredibly lucky and blessed to be using these DM corks. They're absolutely fantastic. They're not inexpensive, but they are put together with those ground up pieces of recycled and reused cork. Not recycled cork, it's never been used. It's virgin cork. It's just the cork that was not punched out. It was the cork in between the punches when they punched the corks. They grind that down, they put it in a hyperbaric chamber with a special process that removes all potential TCA from the closure, from the cork. And then they put it together with an organic food grade polymer, and it's guaranteed for 10 years in the bottle. I have never seen anything but absolutely uniform seepage. The coolest thing about it is I'll open a bottle of wine with a natural cork. There'll always be a little part of that cork that was a little bit different, that the wine seeps up a little higher. You don't find that in DM. DM has the most consistent sort of 2-3 millimeter sort of area where the wine stains and then stops exactly there. I love this technology, and I will fight tooth and nail to continue using DM in every wine I ever make. You have the tradition and the sound of pulling the cork, and you basically have a hermetic, safe, TCA-free seal. Almost like works like a almost works like a corkscrew or screw cap, but you pull it like a cork or like a cork. It's fantastic that way. Hey, Melissa. All right, so let's talk a little bit about food and wine pairing. And the first thing I want to do with food and wine pairing, first of all, I teach a 3-day food and wine pairing course at Allen Hancock College. You should always go to Allen Hancock. I think it's hancockcollege.edu, and you can always see when my courses are. If you live anywhere around this area, I recommend coming on a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and staying and taking my 3-day course. It's like $85. And you're fed all 3 nights. You have wine all 3 nights. You get me all 3 nights. And we spend about 15 hours together learning about food and wine pairing. So I want to take the entire experience of the 15 hours of food and wine pairing and try to condense it down and give you guys enough knowledge that you can match any wine with any food. And then I want you guys to start giving me examples of food and wine pairing that I can look at and maybe we can talk about. So the one thing that you aren't going to be able to do is like Thursday night at Allen Hancock College, I give you, we do a potato chip tasting, and I recommend you doing this at home. Check this out. So get like 10 flavors of potato chips and like 6 kinds of varietal wine. Keep it simple. Sparkling wine, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, Rosé, Pinot Noir, Cabernet Sauvignon. That's it. Get as many flavors of potato chips as you can. Invite your friends over, and it is no rules wine tasting. I want all that I care about. The only rules I have is you tell me which was your favorite match. If you feel like saying why, great. And which was your least favorite match. So, some people might come across as, like super spicy Thai with the Pinot Noir wasn't very good. And then you'll have other, people be like, oh, the sour cream and onion with the sparkling wine was fantastic. So it's a way to play with flavor and to play with spices. In a way that no one's going to feel scared. No one's scared of potato chips, and no one's scared of wine when there's no questions. We all know what we love. We all know what tastes good. And to be honest, we have lost the idea that there is a proper way to match food and wine, period. You know, I mean, when Tim Haney is writing an article for Food and Wine called Food and Wine Pairing is BS. And like last time I was hanging out with Michael Jordan, these guys are both master sommeliers. They're like, nah, I don't really want to talk about food and wine pairing. Eat what you like, drink what you like, have fun, and be done with it. Now, I like to know, I've had certain wine and food pairings that kind of just blew the top of my head off. And I'm like, I want that again. I want to feel that amazing ability and that amazing moment when the wine and the food speak at the same language in the same volume, and they just sing in the palate, almost like a hit of wasabi in your mouth, just kind of going and vibrating, but without that same crazy intensity of wasabi, you know, basically opening your eyes to the future and telling you what tomorrow's lottery numbers are. I eat a lot of wasabi. But that is really the most amazing thing, is that food and wine should play evenly together. The same way that a poet should be someone who watches words play. Someone who's interested in food and wine pairing, I guess they're called sommeliers, should be focused on letting people drink what they love, letting people eat what they love, taking chances, because we're Americans, we can take as many chances as we want, and to reject the idea that the French and the Italians have these strict rules of food and wine pairing that we're trying to replicate. I think a lot of food and wine pairing mistakes, and welcome Marcia, that we make as Americans are because we feel a little insecure in our wine knowledge compared to someone from France or from Germany or from Italy or Spain or Portugal, where wine is absolutely part of their culture. We're probably getting closer to a craft beer culture than we are a wine culture. But the idea of matching food and wine should be easy as putting a good bottle of wine on the table, putting delicious food on the table, and then it's all about evolution. It's all about, hey, if you've been doing it for 10 years, 6 years ago, you put the fettuccine Alfredo on the table, you bust out a bitchin' Suave, you drank the Suave, you ate the fettuccine, it was effing delicious, on you go. Next time you do fettuccine, do you do Suave or do you move to an Alto Adige Pinot Blanc? Well, that's absolutely up to you, but the movement can be lateral and not vertical, in the sense that when we learn about a delicious food and wine pairing, we want to move lateral from that, back or forward, a little more acid, a little more. And so what I've done is this chart, that's backwards, but that chart should basically not be. And no, we're not praising the devil, although it does sort of have a pentagram-y look. All right. So then what we have is the idea, and this is just a little bit of review, and these charts are on both the J. Wilkes Santa Barbara Facebook page as well as the Wes Hagen Facebook page, is that fat loves sweet, sweet loves spicy, salt loves bitter, bitter loves salt. All of the opposites are true too. Acid loves fat, spicy loves acid, spicy loves sweet. So what doesn't like each other? Bitter does not like spicy, acid does not like spicy, and that's it. So bitter loves fat, fat loves piquant or spicy, spicy loves salt, salt loves acid. So what you really just want to try to stop from doing with your matching is matching something that's bitter with something that's spicy, or something that's spicy with something that has acidity, or something that has acid and this also has bitter. So if you have a very bitter salad with a lot of arugula, you probably wouldn't want to serve a high acid wine. You might want to serve a wine that has a little more softness to it. But certainly when you're doing something spicy, a little bit of sweetness in the wine might be able to actually protect your tongue. I also just learned that birds have no ability to taste capsaicin. So capsaicin is the way that we measure in Scoville units how spicy something is. So why in the world would something in nature produce something so spicy that nothing could eat it? Because the whole idea of a fruiting unit, which a pepper is a fruiting unit, is to entice an animal to eat it and then drop it off in a different part of its environment. Seed dispersal. Well, if you go up to a ghost pepper and you eat it, the last thing you're going to probably want to do is take a nice even walk someplace and disperse the seeds in a happy way. That's not going to happen so much. But Turns out peppers are actually meant for birds to eat because birds have no piquant sensors. They have no ability to sense spicy. So you can give something with 10,000 Scoville units to a bird and they won't even notice it. Something that would put someone in a hospital, someone who would put someone in sort of a YouTube, favoritism for the rest of their life because they ate the spiciest pepper in the world, probably, died or went to the hospital doing it. A bird would never do that. So it's interesting. I always love the idea of birds as being sort of vectors for seed dispersal. And there's another cool fact about birds is they can't taste spicy. So here is Wes Hagen's kind of focus on food and wine pairing. I try to take everything down. I just lost the Facebook feed, so I'm going to try to bring it up again. I lost my own personal Facebook feed. Okay. There we go. And I'm back on Wes Hagen. That's a good sign. Okay, so can I explain the difference between Santa Rita Hills and Santa Maria Chard? I think I did that. I think I'm way too high. I mean, way too high on the list of, believe me, I'm not high right now. I would not give a very good conversation for you guys. Birds disperse seeds further than, say, squirrels? Absolutely, and especially intoxicated birds. If birds eat fermented fruit, their dispersal pattern will be much more random. So I would say that that's a benefit for not only the plant, but also the bird that gets to get high in that way. Absolutely. No doubt about it. Welcome, Tom. Welcome, Paul. Just kind of came back in. We've talked a little bit about the J. Wilkes Chardonnay. We talked about the difference between Santa Maria Chardonnay, maybe a little more elegant, beautiful acidity, excellent minerality, and Santa Rita Hills Chardonnay, some of the best Chardonnays in the world. Chardonnays that have intense minerality, intense acid. I'd say Santa Maria Valley is a great wine for people who aren't quite ready to go to the extreme level of acidity and minerality that would be indicated in a Santa Rita Hills Chardonnay. I think that's really nice. And Zach, welcome, welcome. So now we are sitting here talking about food and wine pairing, and I'm going to give you guys my broken down 2 rules of food and wine pairing with a couple of caveats. And then my first rule of wine and food pairing is very simple. Match the intensity of the food to the intensity of the dish. So if you have something elegant and delicate, let's say like an oyster, a good oyster is delicate and flavorful, but very just, it's not intense. It's delicious and bright and complex and mineral, a little bit of cucumber, a little bit of brine, tiny bit of that ocean flavor, what the French call miroir. Yes, there is a term for oysters, miroir, that they properly express the water and the environment from which they were taken. So not only is there terroir, the dirt and the environment and how it affects wine, but also miroir and how it affects oysters. Delicate oyster, delicate wine. Pinot Blanc, bright, elegant, high acid, but also, maybe a 3 or 4 on the intensity scale, perfect for an oyster. Sauvignon Blanc, oyster the same way. Let's move up to a short rib with maybe some polenta and a little bit of that pan reduction gravy. Big flavor, rich, a lot of protein, a lot of gravy. You're going to need something intense. I would say anything from a Zin, Merlot, Cabernet, Nebbiolo. Depending on the preparation, you can go with a big red wine. Now, the question is intensity to intensity. All right, what's the second rule? Because it better cover everything else and tell me that I should have a red wine with my steak and a white wine, sort of with my fish. I'm not going there. I love fish with red wine. I love steak with white wine. And I'll give you a second rule that can teach you how to play with flavor and wine styles where you end up doing something purely American, which is throwing off the idea of European traditionalism and just jumping in and doing what tastes good and feels good to you. And that's the second rule. Obviously, one rule to cover everything besides the intensity is going to really have to use your brain to understand it. And that's this. Match the level of fat in the dish to the level of structure in the wine. Okay, what do I mean? Fat, we all know what fat is, right? I mean, brie is 50% fat by weight. Butter has a lot of fat. Beef has a lot of fat. Chicken has a little fat. Tuna has a little fat. Avocado has fat. Olive oil has fat. Lamb has a lot of fat. So however much fat is in the dish, you're going to need that much structure in the wine. So many of you are ready to kind of jump in and say, if I ask, hey, how is white wine structured? And welcome, Jenny, and I hope the whole Harley clan is with you. If I ask, what is structure in white wine? I can hear you. Acid, yes. The structure in white wine is acid. What is the structure in red wine? I can hear you saying, tannin. That's mostly. Pinot Noir actually is equally structured by acidity and tannin, and that's why it makes it such a perfect food wine. But at the same time, true that white wines and champagne, rosé, are all structured by acidity, and red wines are generally structured by tannin. Here's the weird thing. And this is like one of the kind of things that in food and wine pairing, that's sort of one of those miracles. Day drinking, you know what to do. It's National Beer Day. Not to say you shouldn't be drinking wine, but beer is responsible for modern science and microscopy. So here we go. Because Louis Pasteur, remember, just a couple, was that yesterday? Oh my God. Louis Pasteur basically took the compound microscope and discovered germ theory. And germ theory is the basis for all clinical medicine today. What was Louis Pasteur studying? He was looking at beer. So the study of beer leads to germ theory leads to modern medicine, and modern medicine, well, thank goodness we had Louis Pasteur, the compound microscope, all the way back to Lippershey, all the way back to Leeuwenhoek, and of course Leeuwenhoek back to the guys in Middelburg, Netherlands, who were grinding lenses as a result of making these because of the printing press making the written word in books affordable to the middle class. Boom, here we go. Back to food and wine pairing. So you have red wine structured by tannin, white wine structured by acid, and food, I want you to think of food in terms of fat. So the higher the fat content, hey Matt, what's up? My boy Matt Malden got a hole-in-one at Evergreen Disc Golf Course, I think last weekend, or I'll just say it's the weekend because that guarantees that you were playing disc golf in a safe and wonderful time. But congratulations to Matt on his hole-in-one. That's something that doesn't happen all the time. And, he is our regional West Coast. He takes care of Washington, Oregon, California, and Hawaii for the Miller Family Wine Company. So if you own a large restaurant chain that wants to buy thousands of cases of Miller Family wine on the West Coast or in Hawaii, you would talk to Matt. That's exactly what you would do. So you've got this kind of play between fat and structure. Acid, tannin, and fat. So, it's easy to match a dish that has a lot of fat because fat is flavor. Fat makes people happy. There's no doubt in my mind that when you're really hungry and you want something, you probably are starting to think about high-fat foods. And then if you go to a winemaker dinner, chances are, my experience at winemaker dinners is the chefs kind of show off using a lot of fat, which makes perfect sense for J. Wilkes wines because J. Wilkes wines generally have a fair amount of acidity and a fair amount of tannin. So our wines have good structure because they're really meant to be food wines. Wines that are really soft, that have high pH, low titratable acidity, tend to be great cocktail wines. They're not meant to cleanse our palate between bites. And welcome back, Kelly. So they're really more focused on getting alcohol into our body in the healthiest way possible. I had a fantastic conversation with one of the top 3 liver experts at the University of Ohio, and he's one of the top experts in the country. And we were talking about the health benefits of wine, and I'm like, all right, so what's a safe thing for me to say that no doctor, as far as the health benefits of wine, what could I say that no doctor could say that is incorrect? I want to say something that's absolutely 100% scientifically verifiable. And we got to this. Red wine is the healthiest delivery mechanism for ethanol that has ever been used by Homo sapien. So if you're going to drink and you want to drink in a way that's the healthiest for the human body, you're really probably the most beneficial thing you could do is to use red wine as a delivery mechanism for your daily alcohol. Now, that's not to say that you can drink 4 bottles a day and make it through the other side. In general, most double-blind peer-reviewed studies say 1 glass of red wine per day for women and up to 2 glasses of red wine for men per day gives us the maximum health benefit. And anything we go over that puts us on the bell curve for a little bit of danger. And as much as we love wine, we also want to make sure that we're careful in our consumption. Why do men get to drink more red wine than women? Shouldn't women just get bigger glasses? Well, that's up to you. But I think the real answer to that is actually breast cancer risk. If you look at the bell curve for wine and alcohol consumption and breast cancer, you do see a relationship after 1 glass a day in women. And in general, that does not follow through with cancer rates for men. So we lose 20% of our ability to smell, but nature compensates by making us able to drink a little bit more healthy. So, we want to make sure everyone's drinking healthy and keeping that in mind. Let's make sure that all of a sudden my Presbyterian grandfather, who was a teetotaler, starts coming into my mind. It is day drinking with Wes Hagen, and we're going to take a moment to enjoy ourselves. Let's see, what else about wine and food pairing? All right, so let's talk a little bit about difficult to match foods. How about vegan cuisine? Yes, it does. I would say red wine is quite healthy. And I would say that in general, that anything that you're probably going to be putting into the human body is going to obviously have an impact on your physiology. I've found, welcome, George. I've personally found that wine helps me go to sleep faster, but wakes me up at about 3:30 or 4 in the morning. Beer seems to put me to sleep easier, but because it has so much liquid, I have to get up for other reasons. And spirits don't really help me sleep at all for some reason, even though I do have a little Fernet or something once in a while before I go to sleep. Wine and food belong together. Wine and food will help you live longer if you use them correctly and carefully. And I am a huge proponent that wine is an investment to keep the people we love at table for an extra hour every night. And you guys are going to be basically saying that with me like it's my go-to sort of catchphrase by the time we're done with all of this. In the end, and we're just about done here. We've been on for a little over an hour. I would love for you guys to challenge me with any dishes and what wines I would match with them, and or throw out a match with food and wine, and I'd be happy to talk to you about how I would imagine it. And welcome, Robin, and welcome, Eric. If you are so inclined, feel free to type either a food without a wine or a wine and food match that you've had that you think. I would love to hear some of your favorite food and wine matches. I think, for me, Pinot Noir, Duck Confit were pretty amazing. I had Charolais beef in 1999 in Burgundy, France, with a 1972 Chapelle Chambertin from Louis Tropez, which was absolutely amazing. So I am slowly looking. And if you guys have any suggestions or amazing food, Michael Holland, one of my faves, says that, you can match wine with a stuffed cabbage, Brussels sprouts, and bacon. Okay, so Brussels sprouts are infamous for being one of the hardest foods to match. Throw bacon in, Pinot Blanc. I love salted pork with Pinot Blanc. Of course, you could also go, it depends. Like if I was going to do Brussels sprouts and bacon, I might add a little citrus to add some acid to the dish, and then it would be more of a white wine dish. Without the acid, I think it has enough richness. The problem is the chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is going to be very, very difficult with wine matches, because chlorophyll tends to make wine very bitter because of the acidity. Acidity exists in all wines. The bitterness in a Brussels sprout generally makes the wine bitter. Now, some of you sommeliers out there are just yelling Gruner Veltliner, Gruner Veltliner. And I think that would be, if I was looking for a classic match that You came into my restaurant. You said, I need this match to be spot on. I don't go out very often. And this is a very special night, and I want these matches to be perfect. Without taking any chances, I would match Brussels sprouts and bacon with Gruner Veltliner, which is a wine that's traditionally only produced in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, but now is moving into California and Oregon a little bit. We're starting to see it pop up a little bit. Michelle Miller throws out pizza and champagne. I love pizza, probably because I can't eat it anymore because of all of the carbs. But I do eat pizza maybe once every quarter. And when I do, I just love it. And I try to eat really good pizza. Sometimes I fail. Sometimes the moment where I can't eat pizza, maybe on my birthday, I'm in a place where I can't. But pizza and champagne. Champagne, you talk to most sommeliers and you say, all right, give me 2 wines that match with everything. They're going to give you champagne and Pinot Noir. Irony is they can both come from the same damn grape. So is there anything Pinot Noir can't do in the world of food and wine pairing? And again, one thing I mentioned earlier, if you didn't pick it up, Pinot Noir is the most food-friendly grape on the planet. Why? Because Pinot Noir is the only wine in the world that is equally structured by acid and tannin. It's a red wine that works like a white wine. It's light and elegant enough in your mouth that it can work with white wine dishes. And it's dense and intense enough in the mouth to work with red wine dishes. And if you are careful with the Pinot Noir that you're using, a light-bodied, elegant, Alsatian Pinot Noir, which almost looks like rosé, with a really light dish, and then maybe a Santa Rita Hills or Santa Lucia Highlands or something from the Sonoma Coast that has a little more density, a little more oak to match with big dishes, a little more meat, a little more protein, that kind of stuff. All right, well, I am watching. If there's any other comments or questions about food and wine pairing, I will slowly, all right, do you pair the food to the wine or the wine to the food? Yes, that's the worst answer ever. It depends on where you want to start. Sometimes I start with the ingredients in my refrigerator, and sometimes I start with the wine I want to drink. Let's just go out on a limb here and say, let's choose the wine first, because that makes it really, really easy. And remember, I don't believe there are necessary matches. It's all about being creative and taking a chance. A Sauvignon Blanc, or even this Chardonnay with steak. So I want to do Chardonnay and I want to have a steak. Okay, let's think about preparation. What can I do to match the flavor profile of the Chardonnay to the steak? I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to produce a sauce for the steak, medium rare, maybe small little strips of sirloin with au poivre. So cream, peppercorns, and butter. So cream, peppercorns, and butter, we're going to get a little pepperiness. That might even match better with Sauvignon Blanc, because the Sauvignon Blanc and the green from the peppercorn would match with the green from the Sauvignon Blanc, the Sauvage. But we were talking about Chardonnay. I think Chardonnay would be a gorgeous match with a steak au poivre. Perfect. The cream, the butter, the peppercorns, the fat of the steak, the acid in the wine. I think it would make an excellent match. Now, you're going to miss a little bit of richness in the wine. The richness in the wine is not going to match the richness of the dish, but I think that that's just perfect. No problem there at all. All right, so we've got Bill in the house. GV is in Maryland. Excellent. So the last question was, do we want to pair the food to the wine or the wine to the food? And I would say, if you're looking for me to come in and tell you how to do this, then you've missed the point. The point is play. The point is fun, and the point is that food tastes good with wine. Beyond that, it's all how granular you want to get, how complicated you want to get, how many times you want to try different wines with foods. And if you pay attention, Byron Lynch, love you, baby. One of my favorite students from high school. Steve Anderson's on too, or Steve. Anyways, stoked you're on, Byron. Good man right there. So we've got this sort of a wonderful situation where you can take almost any wine and put any food on the table and take some notes and understand something that you wouldn't have missed it. In fact, I oftentimes learn more from a bad wine than a good wine, and I learn more from a bad food and wine match than I do from a good one. So if you've, like me, every breath is a miracle, and hopefully we'll be on this planet for another couple decades, however long. I want to play. I want to take a chance. So why does why does lamb not go with Viognier? I don't know. Why don't we start finding out why? Try to make iffy matches, and I think you'll be surprised just how well they work. And when they don't work, you'll learn from that in a way that'll be more important to understanding how food and wine pairing works otherwise. There is another very important chart down either on the Wes Hagen or the J. Wilkes Wine Santa Barbara Facebook page that gives a much more lengthy introduction from Wine Folly, which is a great book you should all buy, that explains sort of more of the basics of food and wine pairing and the traditional ideas of what normal sommeliers would use for those matches. I will once again give a plug to one of my favorite educational books. Wade and Amy, welcome. And that is Wine Folly. Great book, and it's just it's like all cool charts and visual stuff for ADD and focus challenged people like myself. It's really good stuff. I will finish. I always promise 90% content, 10% commercial. So I will finish with a commercial, and that is the Miller Family Wine Company pays me to do these presentations, and we've been doing a very good job of selling wine on these little video podcasts. So if you want to buy J. Wilkes wines or the other Miller Family wines, Ballard Lane, Barrel Burner, and or Smashberry, the Smashberry Rosé is absolutely incredible for $7.50 a bottle. That 50% off on all the Miller Family wines will probably end on Friday with 1 cent shipping per case. You got to buy a case, but for $7.50 a bottle, hello, under $100 case delivered to wherever you are. And how important is that during our sip time? So DD50, capital D 50 at millerfamilywines.com, millerfamilywines.com, DD50, and that will and that means day drinking 50. DD50, and that'll give you 1 cent a case shipping and 50% off the Miller Family wines and 30% off a case of J. Wilkes. So you can buy as many or as few of the Miller Family wines, get 50% off as you want, but you think you do have to buy a case of J. Wilkes to get that 30% off. But the 30% off almost gets you to Wine Club pricing, but Wine Club pricing is a little bit better. We'll talk about Wine Club probably tomorrow. Cool, John, I hope you are well. Wade, I hope you are well. And thanks again to everyone who is listening. I'm going to do one last check, and I will come across which wine matches with Jocko's. Jocko's is a fantastic steakhouse up in Nipomo, California, that probably serves the best steak for the money that I know of in California. I would have to say, if I had to just bring one bottle of wine there, I'd bring a bottle of Pinot, because I think it just matches with that red oak barbecue in a beautiful, beautiful way. Dry Riesling is probably one of the most food-friendly wines on the planet. It also has low alcohol, which means it can match with food that has a little bit of spice, because unlike birds, we are very sensitive to capsaicin. So I love Dry Riesling. I think Dry Riesling is a close second in the most expressive white wine in the world behind Chardonnay. Sorry, Riesling, I just have to give you. And Michael Holland is throwing out that he put the stuffed cabbage out there, so now he has to give a word. He's going to put some Mourvèdre out there. And Mourvèdre is actually one of the funkiest red wines in the world, and that's why I love it. And Christy is down to try some Mourvèdre and stuffed cabbage, or maybe something else we were talking about. But if you've never been to Jocko's Steakhouse up in Nipomo, if you're up in northern Santa Barbara County or up near San Luis Obispo, you owe it to yourself to go in at 3:30 in the afternoon and get a table. Unfortunately, it's incredibly popular with the geriatric crowd, so it's an hour and a half wait from about 4:30 to about 7, and then the place empties out. You can walk in at 9 and take the place over with a BB gun. Cool. Yeah, Wine Folly. If you love wine and you don't own a copy of that, I really think you should know it. Characteristic difference between Biennacido and Solomon Hills Pinots. Okay, well, we're talking about Chard, Peter. So, and this will be what I'm kind of finishing with tonight. Our 2 estate vineyards owned by the Millers in Santa Maria Valley are the clearly, I think, the two best vineyards in Santa Maria Valley. So we've got Bendecido, the most vineyard designated property on the planet Earth, and Solomon, which is 900 acres, and Solomon Hills, which is 100 acres, predominantly Chardonnay. Bendecido, probably predominantly Pinot Noir, although you'd be surprised how many different grapes are at Bendecido. Solomon Hills, let's start with Chardonnay. Solomon Hills, I think with both Pinot and Chardonnay, Bendecido is going to be more complex, and Solomon Hills is going to be more. Sometimes I use the word digital, like it's zeros and ones. Like there's the fruit, there's the acid. It's very intense and very focused. Bendecido, there's so much going on that it's, lights and explosions and pops and flavors and wood and earth and 5 different soil types, and that's Bendecido. Solomon Hills is like deep river sand in the coolest place where wine is grown in the Santa Maria Valley. So the Chardonnays tend to have, almost out Chablis, intense acid, intense minerality, all of these wonderful things. And then the Bendecido Chardonnays tend to be a little more broad, a little more figgy, a little more rich. And Solomon Hills is just like bam. And Pinot is the same way. Pinot from Solomon Hills has so much acidity, you almost have to let it ripen to the point where you're wondering if you've gone too far. So Solomon Hills tends to be incredibly incredibly stratified, especially when they're young. It takes about 10 years for a Solomon Hills Pinot Noir to really integrate. So it's every flavor is part of itself. Until then, it's like, there's the fruit, there's the mid palate, there's the finish, there's the acidity. Wow. Solomon Hills Chardonnay is one of the most fascinating Chardonnays I've ever tasted, and the Pinots are amazing too. Bendecido, far different, far more complex soil types. We've got schist, we've got shale, we've got volcanic soil. We have one of the only limestone soils in Santa Maria, as well as a lot of calcareous shale and elder sandy loam. So those are kind of the differences. I would expect Bendecido to show better early, and if you love acid, the Solomon Hills will really catch your attention when they're young. But Solomon Hills requires a un-American level of patience in a culture that consumes 85% of its wines within 48 hours of purchase. So you're going to have a different type of wine cellar for Solomon Hills than an Escalade on the way home from Trader Joe's. And I think that would be an excellent point to end tonight's conversation with. And I hope everyone got something out of this. I hope everyone learned something out of it. And then I would say, Bob asked one quick question. And so even though Uncle Wes from CC Harley, I hope you were well. Bob asked one last quick question. Might as well hit it so I don't have to type it. What would you consider the ideal pH and TA for a Sauvignon Blanc? Not a wine pairing question, just questions your thoughts. If I was making Sauvignon Blanc, which I never have, so take that with a huge freaking grain of salt, I would be picking Sauvignon Blanc. First of all, I would be watching Rick Longoria to see when he picks his Sauvignon Blanc. I would probably call John Buchenstein at Sauvignon Republic and talk to him because he taught me how to taste and evaluate wine. I'd probably call Brian Babcock and ask for his opinion. But if they had all fallen off the face of the planet and I had to use my own gut, I would say 3.2 pH at 8 grams of acid for harvest. Now, TH and PA, or TA and pH, they really just go kind of all over the place. It's almost impossible to get those numbers to come together. But if you're saying what I would consider almost a perfect acid level, I would love to see 23.5% sugar by volume. And I would love to see 3.2 at about 8 grams of acid. So that would be what I would do. We are talking tomorrow. So today's Tuesday, tomorrow is Wednesday. I did post all of, I think tomorrow, let me, give me a second and I will check. Oh, tomorrow's going to be a good one. Oh, I'm so glad I was wearing pants. Sometimes I don't. I'm glad you enjoyed that joke, Ms. Victoria. Looked like someone else did too. Love it. Cool. Yeah, so tomorrow is how to grow grapes. So tomorrow I'm going to be saying, okay, you've got a backyard. Do you want to start a vineyard? And if you do, I will put myself out there to say I'm one of the national experts in growing small production and backyard vineyards. I've been writing on this subject for 25 years at Winemaker Magazine, and I have helped hundreds of people plant vineyards in their backyard and to give them the management and cultural practice tools to keep those vines alive and hopefully producing some damn good booze. So that is about it. I went completely, basically without a net tonight. No notes, no agenda. I hope you enjoyed this sort of Wes Hagen ADD theater. I am unmedicated and I have a very hard time keeping on subject, which I've been told can be entertaining. So I hope you had a good time listening tonight about the J. Wilkes 2017 Chardonnay, about food and wine pairing, and now you're thinking about dinner. Maybe it's still day where you are. Maybe it's fading into night. Looks like the road is showing that it's raining lightly outside in Santa Maria, California. So I'm going to spend the rest of my evening with my lovely wife and this bottle of Santa Maria Valley Chardonnay. And we do have a challenge. We bought 3 pounds of broccoli florets from Costco, and our goal is to eat 3 pounds of broccoli before it goes bad. So I'll keep you up to date. That would be Gruner Veltliner, but if I put enough butter in it, maybe it'll match with this beautiful Chardonnay. Awesome. Byron, I'm glad you gave up on your ADD drugs. I have been an unmedicated ADD kid since in fact, when I was growing up, we didn't even have ADD. I was just a spaz. I was just hyperkinetic. My parents made a decision not to give me Ritalin as a kid, and now I have a special superpower, and that is I have to mitigate my own ADD, ADHD with the same brain that makes me wrong. Yeah, dude, but there's ADD kids that are annoying and ADD kids that are brilliant, Byron, and you were the latter. You were maybe my favorite student I've ever had. And proud that you went and served your country too, man. Congratulations. Take care of each other. Be passionate. Be considerate. Be everything that your mom would want you to be. Smile to everyone you see because you don't know what they're going through. And I will say this again. Find someone you know that might be alone and that might be struggling, and reach out to them and give them a lifeline. Give them a call. Just tell them you love them. Tell them you miss them, and you look forward to meeting them down at Lucky Baldwin's for a great Belgian beer in Sierra Madre when we're ready to get out of this. And make sure you have enough wine at home, because wine will get you through times like this better than just about anything. Good combination. Good love. Love the world. Every breath is a miracle. Trust in science, and we'll get out of this. And if you have not, where's that book of mine? I have a book around here that I wanted to share with you guys. Where did I put that book? I thought I put it in an obvious place because I wanted you all to see it. Well, I'll find that book and show you guys tomorrow. But the book is by Dr. Steven Pinker. It's called Enlightenment Now. It's basically why the Enlightenment, science, and rationality have led us to the greatest time in human history. If you don't believe at this moment that we're living in the greatest time in human history, go read Enlightenment Now and get back to me, because every time I read it, every time I look at it, every time I get through it, I always feel much more focused and convinced that this is the greatest time in the history of the world. So we are in the greatest time in history. We are in a little bit of a hiccup. And this will all just make us better people when we come out the other end. So if you can't be with the wine you love the wine you're with. And if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. And if you aren't with anybody, reach out and make some love in this world. I hope you guys all have an intense and wonderful Tuesday evening. Remember, come on in tomorrow night, J. Wilkes Pinot Noir. I've been waiting on that one, right? And how to grow grapes. I'm going to teach you guys how to be a viticulturist tomorrow. Questions, answers, a little bit of how to plant a backyard vineyard. And believe me, nothing will ever influence the way you look and understand wine than if you know how to grow it. All right? Take care of each other. go out there into the world, be brave, and do the right thing. Talk to you guys soon. Oh, tomorrow's always at 5. I'm always on at 4:50. And Byron, if you have a chance to come in a little bit early, I'd love to have a little conversation with you too. And I'll send you some more information about how to contact me. Awesome. So I'll see you guys all at or slightly before 5 o'clock tomorrow. Take good care of yourself. Wash your damn hands. 20 seconds. And also a little bit of soap up on that nose. And then wipe it with a towel. It's good stuff too. I'm not a doctor, but I do have a sign that says science. All right. Be well. Remember that unicorns don't exist. All right. We'll talk to you soon.